In this video, I want to demonstrate how to repair the drywall after wallpaper removal. Here we are removing a vinyl projection screen. In commercial or older houses, you'll have this thick vinyl wallpaper, but whether it's a thick vinyl wallpaper or regular wallpaper, you're going to have damage after removing it. As you remove it, the process is going to be minor to major. This was put on probably with liquid nails, so it's a lot harder to come off than regular wallpaper or wallpaper adhesive. Here I'm using a 5-in-1 and a utility knife and just scraping it little by little. But as you can see, it's still leaving a lot of that glue or adhesive, as well as ripping apart the surface face of the wall as I'm peeling it off. I grabbed my Bauer electric vacuum sander, and now I'm just kind of going over it with 60 grit, giving it a rough pass. Anything that's loose, any of the sharp edges that were left from the glue, and or anything that anything that can come off, I'm just trying to give it a quick brush down and get it all taken care of. These walls are about 11 feet high, I believe, and you can see I'm about 5'8", 5'7", 5'8". These walls being 11 foot high, I had no problem reaching all the way to the top of the T-bar where the top of the wall is. And it has an extension on here, and you can see the light that's on there, so they came in pretty handy. And this is the job that the reason that I bought this in the first place was for this job, being that we were in a fire department and I didn't want a lot of dust flying around. So you can see the hose, it's hooked up to my vacuum there. So this step, we put on sticks. You can put on anything that's called like guards. You can put on something that's called draw tight. And what we're doing here is we're actually just sealing the adhesive. And what it's going to do as it dries, it's going to pull back anything that's loose or dry from the wallpaper and the adhesive, and it's going to allow it to bubble up, so that way we can get it before we move on in the process. So you can even use a primer, kills, just something that's going to kind of seal it, if you will. It's gonna give it a good seal before we start putting anything else on. So this is an example of a blister. What it is it's where it's bubbled up, it's pulled apart from the drywall. So you take your utility knife, you go at a beveled edge, which is at an angle. Then you go ahead and cut deep. You do a deep cut around wherever the thing is at, the bubble is at. And you remove it, it's gonna peel back easily. Now, luckily on this wall, we only had a couple of them, and this was the biggest one that we had. So once you remove the loose part, you can take sandpaper, you can take a sanding block or sanding sponge, and then you're just going to give it a light sand just to remove anything else that may be loose, that brown paper there. So here I'm just giving it a quick brush. I'm not worried about filling it in with mud because we're going to do that in the next couple steps after. Now the next step we did was we did put a PVA primer. This step is not necessary if you're doing it at your own residence or for your own project. However, the contractor that I'm working for insisted that I put on another layer because he wanted the mud to bond well to the wall. Being again that this is going to be a fire station, and that the paint we're going to use is a special paint that is actually going to be a projector paint. So when we paint it onto the wall, that's actually what the screen is going to be. So he didn't want to have any issues down the line. So we did the second step here of adding this PVA primer over that other primer, just to make sure we had a better connection of the mud to the drywall itself. So that's after we did the second coat, or the first coat of PVA primer. So my first coat of mud I'm going to put on is the 90-minute easy sand or quick set, whatever you want to call it. I ended up mixing up, I believe, just one bucket or 2 buckets with the 2 bags. So here I'm just using my 14-inch knife and my 14-inch pan, putting it on by hand. Now again, you can't tell from the distance of this camera, but the adhesive was pretty prominent. It was raised up a lot higher than the rest of the drywall, so I am putting on pretty generous here. So that way it's all smooth, or it's all to one, like it's all the same depth is what I'm trying to say. It's all the same depth. And so that's putting the first coat all the way down the bottom. So after the first coat of the hot mud, we let it dry overnight. I came back the next day, I'm giving it a quick sand. I believe I'm using 100 grit on this sanding. And I'm just taking off all the heavy lap marks, and I'm taking down all the heavy edges because it'd be way too much to scrape. So now I'm using a +3 topping. Again, I'm going over it. This is not as heavy, but it's not a pull tight either. This is a medium. Just going through the whole thing again by hand with the 14-inch knife, 14-inch pan, giving it a second coat, filling it in. Now after this step, I did do another sanding with the sanding pole, but I didn't film that. So again, my third coat, I'm using +3. This time, I'm actually applying it with a texture roller and a 4-foot rolling pole. And I'm rolling it on there, and I'm using the level 5 32-inch composite skim blade. And for the high stuff, obviously you see I have the attachment, the handle attachment with the extension pole. And when I get down to the bottom part, I'm taking it off and I'm just dragging it up by hand. And this one I am pulling tight because this is my final coat. And what I found worked best was to only go halfway first and then roll the bottom half and do that because it was drying out too quick by the time that I pulled it all the way down. And again, this level 5 32-inch composite skim blade came in perfect for this. I didn't have to go up and down on the scaffold like you saw on the other two coats. I was able to do it all from the floor. Saved a lot more time. Now I'm careful not to roll all the way to the top because there is T-bar there and I didn't want to have to bother to mask everything off, so I didn't want to accidentally bump the ceiling tiles or the T-bar, so I'm staying a couple inches off of the top, and you'll see in the next part of this I go up there and square everything off. And it'll be to your discretion on how bad the damage is after you remove wallpaper. If you need to do 3 coats, maybe you only need to do 2 coats or possibly 1 coat, just depending on how they adhered the wallpaper to the wall and how bad the damage is after you pull it off. And here I'm just going around squaring everything off by hand. Like I said, I didn't go all the way up. So here I'm going by hand with the 6-inch and just stripping in to make sure that it's all squared off on the top, and I'll do the same thing on the bottom. So I sanded it, we put another PVA primer, and then we used a special paint that we had ordered for this wall, which is this digital image paint. It's actually a roll-on projector screen, if you will. So this is the final product. We painted the repo spray around the outside, squared it off, painted it top to bottom. They loved it. They said it came out great, and that's the final. If you're up close, it just looks like one flat wall. From being back here, it looks like it's a little bit of a 3D effect. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.